thing.
Hmm.
So a question that it's also that's been happening is the question of so colleges as a whole, they across the board, this college is an exception because you guys haven't hiked tuitions in the last 7 years, but colleges across the board they've hiked tuition. Like the prices have increased more than even medical inflation, and let
Yeah,
alone inflation itself.
right.
Uh, Debt obviously it's a big issue. There's not a debt that you can't declare bankruptcy on. So it's just all there forever. And the question of going to university itself, it's become more of a is it actually worth it? So and a lot of people started to see college as a not necessarily investment but as an insurance, to the point where if you don't go to college, you're gonna end up homeless somewhere.
Mhm.
So what do you make of that distinction of seeing college, like you can see like if people say, oh, it's an investment and so on, but in reality people might actually see it as an insurance. So what does that say about our society, and what do you make of that such
Well,
framing?
it's an investment, it's an insurance, and I've always said it's not necessarily for everyone. So I want to be clear about that. But I think for the majority of young people that are thinking about their future, college is the best way to assure a quality of life and a lifestyle that's perhaps better than what your parents have experienced. And I know you hear a lot of brouhaha about that now, but that still remains a very dominant and accurate narrative. It's about how do you is it college is not just an individual benefit, and that's part of the problem now. Is perceived to be not just it. Back in the day when I was going through college, getting a college was part of a public good. That you got an education to improve not only yourself but to improve your community and to improve the livelihood of your family. Over time, it's been perceived to be more of a private a private benefit and not necessarily a public good. And I just think part of the problem here is that we failed to tell the story about the importance of a college education in ways that are most compelling, given these contemporary times in which we live. So I still do believe that for the majority of us, college education still remains the best investment that one can make in themselves and in the broader society. But there's always a but in these things. There's nothing that's 100%, particularly in these times in which we live. We also have come to know, because of technology, part of the technology that we've created at this university and many universities that are like us have created technologies that are really shaping a different kind of workforce, a type of workforce where a traditional college degree is not necessarily needed to meet the workforce demands. And so, what I think colleges and universities have to do are two things. They have to continue to provide the most amazing, compelling argument about the importance of a college degree, to tell that story much more effectively than what we have in the past, because now another narrative, a college degree is not worth it. And part of it has to do with the folks that are graduating with an enormous amount of debt. They don't get the jobs that are necessary for them to cover that debt in a reasonable um, time period over their lifespan. And that feeds that narrative that is it worth it? But I can tell you that it is worth it. But at the same time, universities have to think about, given the changes in the workforce, given the changes that there are jobs that are being created now that didn't exist 2 years ago. And some of these jobs don't require a college degree, but they require a specific set of skills and talents that you can't just acquire by finishing high school. You've got to have some training beyond high school in order to get those skills. And so one of the things we're strategically thinking about at this university, what is the role we play as a land-grant university? We have an obligation to educate the masses of people across the state of Illinois. That was the original land-grant mission, and now it's across the nation and across the world. That's part of our land-grant mission. But in the context of that land-grant mission, we're at a juncture now where undergraduate degrees, master's degrees, PhD degrees are still at the core of what we do and will always be at the core of what we do. But as a land grant university with the commitment to do the public good. We have to think strategically about how do we do the upskilling and the reskilling of a workforce that's changing so rapidly. And I hear from CEOs of companies that are telling me that they're going to need in the next 2 or 3 years to upskill or reskill 50% of their workforce. And then 5 years from now, they're going to end up having to do the whole thing all over again. Just because the nature of work and how technology, how data sciences, AI, imaging, all the stuff that is transforming society has created this whole new category of work and created a new workforce that may not need a college degree, but they're going to need to be constantly skilled and reskilled and upskilled. And so as a land-grant universities, we are thinking about what is the appropriate role for us to play in this regard. So we'll continue to be best in class for undergraduate students from around the nation and around the world, but also master's and PhD and professional students. You know, we're just rolling out this engineering-based College of Medicine. That's always going to be there. But there's this whole segment of society that's emerging that's going to need upskilling and reskilling. And because we are kind of locked into this notion of getting a degree, we're even thinking about a mechanism that if you were just doing upskilling and reskilling, that you could have what we're calling stackable credentials. If you wanted to stack, say, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of upskilling and reskilling, getting the badges and certificates you need, you can stack those to get a degree in engineering if that's what you want to do, but not saying it is, not starting down that path as a requirement. We're pretty much leaving it up to the student and to the learner to decide when and where and how they want to get those skills and whether they think it's a comparative advantage for them to stack them into a degree or not. But it's mainly about making sure that we are training and providing the skills that individuals need to meet workforce demand.